Now, should I read this question? Because this is a question for Echo Charles. So that means I get to read it. Well, it's two questions actually, but I put them together because they're pretty close. Okay. Jocko Willink, what brought you and Echo Charles together? Can we get the backstory there? I like the chemistry. Echo Charles, question for you to answer on Jocko Podcast. What have you learned from Jocko, and how has your life changed since? This is Echo's first response to a question. Don't screw it up. Here we go. I'm going to heckle you.
Yeah, of course. Which is funny because that's kind of what brought us together, or part of what brought us together. And I think it's good that I answer this part because you probably remember a lot less of it. So I would say it was 06. I had seen you like the first, within the first year of joining with Dean in 05, but I didn't know you. I didn't talk to you, nothing like that. I just had heard of you from Dean. And then in like 06, when we moved over to the boxing club, I rolled with you one time. I was still a white belt. Mm-hmm. And so that could have been still 05. I don't know. And then, you beat me up and you were just more like this stoic guy. Basically, mm-hmm. I would imagine the same guy that people interpret you to be from the outside, mm-hmm. kind of like not intense, but just real like, oh yeah, just real matter of fact, Mm-hmm. So you beat me up or whatever. And then since I had already heard of you, you were Dean's black belt and, all this stuff that I was like, yeah, that's about right. He's, good jiu-jitsu, whatever, beat me up. But that wasn't really saying much because everyone was beating me up. And then time went on, I didn't see you for a while. And then when I started to kind of gig out, I was training with Brent. Remember mm-hmm. Brent? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was training with him, and then with Elias a little bit, mm-hmm. and then you'd come back. I was competing, and then you were just around for whatever reason. And then, I just started training with you. And
I think that's when we opened Victory, right?
Yes.
It was around the same time.
Yeah, exactly. And then, what was funny is that you never came off. Like once I knew you, like immediately, you never came off as this super intense person. Like it was more like you were just sarcastic, like like any other of my friends. But you could still always tell that there was something behind the scenes. You know how Joe Rogan said like he seen you and he was like, "There's something up with this guy." So I kind of got that same feeling. But you were always just like, "Oh yeah, this real matter of fact, but funny, like kind of." Person or whatever, but when I say matter of fact, I mean like this one tournament when it was kind of later where I lost to Sean Roberts and mm-hmm. he got me with a go-go plata. Mm-hmm. And, when you lose in a jiu-jitsu tournament, and that was the first time I lost since I went advanced, because I was doing a lot of no-gi, I had never lost. And Sean Roberts gets me with a go-go plata. So instead of you saying, hey, it's okay or nothing like that, you send me a text. You're sitting across the arena. You're right there. You send me a text. Hey, you got caught with a go-go. That's gotta sting. I was like, bro, this is a tournament. It's not practice. You can't say that kind of stuff. I was like, whatever. But I think that, training together and just kind of getting, you kind of had that thing that you could say that kind of stuff because really it's not that serious, Yeah. I don't think there's not many people who could have conveyed that though. I think it had to come from you. Anyway, so that's kind of how we met, mm-hmm. I'd say. And then kind of after a while, how did the idea of a podcast come up? Because we kind of talked about that a little bit before. I kind of
forget the formation, but it was in my mind when I went on Joe Rogan's. I think we had talked about, hey, we should do something. I think you said to me, like, hey, you should do it. And so when I went on Joe Rogan's and he said, you should do a podcast. Yeah. I think Tim Ferriss said, hey, you should do a podcast. Yeah. And then I kind of, you being a techie, sound guy, video guy, I just said, hey, do you know how to make a podcast?
Yeah.
That's right. I just said, hey, do you know how to make a podcast? Because I need to make one.
Yeah.
Because everything to me is just a total caveman, right? How do you, do I need a tape recorder? What do I need? That's what and so then you said, yeah, I know how to do that. I could make that happen. And then you said it'd be cool instead of just you sitting there talking, if you had someone to talk to. And I said, yeah, you're right. That would be cool. And then you'd said, it'd be cool if it was me.
Yeah. Well, my selling point was that's strange if it's just you just sitting there. You know, it's more strange, and it's better if you have someone to kind of bounce things off of.
Agreed.
You know? Especially someone who can kind of be like, oh, I'm just an everyday guy. Like, so I can like ask questions that kind of reiterate the point, you know, to someone who might not get it. Yeah, I had it all thought out, you know. In my mind, I did anyway. But yeah, then, obviously Joe Rogan was kind of the tipping point when he suggested it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was great insight from Joe Rogan.
And I'm glad he did. And I'm glad you did. And I'm glad we did make this podcast happen. So to answer the question, what have I learned? And this is interesting because I asked myself this exact same question like a week ago. Because I am literally a different person now in ways that are kind of surprising in a way. So I'd say the first thing that's kind of not that surprising, but it's very prevalent is when I see people blaming other people or blaming me, or I feel the compulsion to blame someone else, it stands out like a sore thumb. Almost like if I'm feeling that, and it like almost like if I want to say something to indicate that I'm going to blame somebody or something, it's almost like a red flag. Like I'm not allowed to do that in my own mind. It's like this hard and fast rule. And like I said, they just stand out like a sore thumb everywhere though. On TV, on, you know, the guy, not even my conversation. Oh, I see what you're doing right there, you know? So it's like your whole way of life in that regard is just shifted.
Extreme ownership and the awareness of that and seeing it in other people or lack of it in other people, it definitely stands out like crazy once you start thinking about it.
Yeah, and I have the luxury of being around you talking about these things, talking about examples of it every week.
Right.
So throughout the week, I'm like, I can't even help but notice it, you know? And it helps, man, because it applies to everyone and everything. Like most relationships are going to apply these principles, you know, if you're involved in them. So yeah, it's all automatic now. So when it comes to ownership and really blaming myself, if anyone, and focusing on my responsibility in any scenario, whatever, it comes automatic now. I would say
that's a huge step.
I mean, whether I make the right choices, that's always going to be a work in progress, I think. But as far as that attitude, it's automatic now.
That's awesome.
And then in regards to, so I've always been into working out. And so me not feeling like working out I've always felt like working out. So as far as not feeling like it, that wasn't really a factor, but in a bunch of other things in life, it was a factor. And so, so
you're saying not feeling like doing X, something. Y, or Z.
Yeah, like, I gotta go to the post office today, and that's on the low end, and then, or the other one is, I don't know, something more important, right? But maybe I'll wait till really the last minute, or, you know, procrastination type stuff.
So you're getting into the here and now.
Yeah, and not feeling like it, that means absolutely nothing. If something needs to be done and I don't feel like it, and you know how like you have certain ideas already, and then other ideas are introduced, and then those ideas kind of mingle with your existing ideas, and they formulate this whole new course of action, right? So the not feeling like it is no excuse. That idea came in, and so now I'm like, it morphed into this thing, like me not feeling like it. Guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to do it. Right, you know? So it's almost like this personal challenge now, you know? And man, as far as results go, man, you get everything done. I get so much stuff done, and it's not probably compared to you, it's nothing, but I get stuff done, like so many things done during the day that I never thought that I could do that many things in a day.
That's awesome.
You know, I was always looking for maybe a rest or a nap or something like that. But now every once in a while, I'll be challenging myself to do as many things as I can and be like solid. And on top of that, and you're the one who said this, was one time, one of the things you were kind of tired and you were like, you know what? But I like this. I like just grinding and grinding and grinding. And then at the end of the day, when I go to bed where my head just crashes into the pillow, I like that. And I was like, yeah, that sounds nice, you know? So I want to approach things like that now. And also, I think of all the good things that have been done, like great things and just good things or whatever. If these people didn't do it because they didn't feel like it, like these things wouldn't have got done, you know? So if you got stuff to do, you do it, whether you feel like it or not. That's what I have for myself now. And the last thing is, I kind of knew this, but man, it's so clear now that you can get certain messages and information and tips and tactics and stuff from people or the internet or books or whatever. But if you're not ready to accept them, you just won't accept them, or they'll just go in one ear and out the other. And a lot of time that has to do with who's saying it. So if, like, I don't know, your neighbor, some goof off, he's drinking a beer, smoking a cigarette, and he's like, hey, guess what? You should do this. And it can be this great advice, but you can be like, I'm not going to listen to you. I'm not even going to listen to you. I'm not even going to get past that part. The fact that you're the one that's saying this already walled me off from what you have to say. And that's natural, I think. But a lot of these things, like you're reading these old books that have these messages that you've been saying. So it's not new stuff. And a lot of stuff, oh yeah, I heard that. Take responsibility for your actions.
Yeah, how old is that?
Yeah, that's not new. If I bust out, hey, you guy on the street, take responsibility for your actions if something comes up. I'm just saying. He'd be like, yeah, that's nothing new. That wouldn't stand out. But for some reason, when you're saying it, it gets you thinking, yeah, let me take responsibility, So yeah, I'd say when it comes to listening to this podcast, all the answers you have for these questions and any questions I even have, it seems like it comes and I process it way more readily than, memes on Facebook or wherever, So yeah.
That's awesome.
Pretty transformative, I would say.
That's really cool. That's great to hear. And I've definitely seen a transition in everything you're doing. I mean, everything you're doing is spot on.
Yeah.
And that's legit. It's legit to see. It's legit to see someone moving towards their potential as a human. Yeah. That's awesome to see.
Yeah. And another thing that kind of I came to as not a conclusion, but which is a result. It's not a direct, like you didn't tell me this, but this is what all my existing thoughts mixed with all your input kind of arrived at. One of the things is that it's up to you, it's up to me what I spend my time doing. Totally up to me. And it's up to me what I fill my head with. Mm-hmm. So, like I used to have these shows that I love to watch. I love to watch Hawaii Five-0 and Shark Tank. And that's kind of it. I don't really watch that much TV, but those two. That's maybe, 2 hours or so that I could be reading something that's going to help me through the rest of my life, or getting better at something that's going to help my, relationships or career or something like that. And I use that example because that seems pretty like not inconsequential because it's only 2 shows. It's not like I spend 10 hours a day watching TV. It's just 2 shows. Who cares? No harm in that, right? But that's up to me. I'm not missing out by missing Hawaii Five-0. I'm not missing out. Nope. That's not going to affect my life in any negative way in the future at all. It won't affect my life in any way, actually. But if I read something useful, educate myself in whatever arena that's going to improve my interest or my relationship or something like that, that will help me.
Yeah, no, that's one of the things I've noticed. I'd show up at the studio, and you'd say, "Oh, I was reading this book today about how we could get this to sound better," and I read this thing about you're coming back to me with all this information, and it was something that just transitioned in your brain where you said, "You know what? I could be watching TV and wasting my mind, or I could be applying myself and learning."
Yeah. And
that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, one of the things I read, actually, and I read it on, I want to say Wikipedia, this specific thing, but there's this automatic way of thinking, and it's called hyperbolic discounting, right? And all that means is you choose immediate payoffs versus, and I kind of mentioned this before, you choose immediate payoffs versus long-term payoffs, right? And it's there for a reason, survival mechanism in all these ways, but it's old. It exists for an environment that's not current. So if you can basically, be aware of that and combat that, where don't do the immediate payoff things. So just take what you're about to do, evaluate it. Is this going to help me other than the pleasure that I think, whether that in regards to food, drinking, TV shows, like if you watch reality TV, check yourself on that one. And ask yourself, is this going to help me in the future? And typically the answer for those types of things is going to be no. And then consider an alternative that you can do. And a lot of the stuff can be pleasurable that will help you in the future. And it's totally up to you. It's totally up to you.
Why not make the good choice?
Yeah. And the payoff, not only is it bigger, it lasts longer.
Yeah.
And the immediate payoff is gone. It's just a memory. But
awesome. That's awesome to hear. And actually, we got that next comment here. Is sort of the same vein. It's coming from, and we get a bunch of, emails. But I just thought this one was interesting to hear someone kind of talking about their transition. Here she says, I'm one of many people who live their lives as they think they should and end up mid-40s, lost, chubby, and depressed. I definitely don't hero worship you, but I'm truly grateful for your online presence. I now get up at 5 a.m. daily, and I screen grab my phone every morning as the alarm goes off and post that shot with another shot from my walk a few minutes in. I walk for an hour daily and have started stretching daily for an hour. But this doesn't stop there. I now have a bunch of friends who are getting up early and going for a walk or going to the gym, getting after it, as you say. We are all noticing an improvement in our lives. So we might not be military or police. We are not planning on becoming jiu-jitsu champions at this stage. We are just people who lost themselves, lost their way, who are finding their way back. In part, thanks to you. I credit you at least twice a week and tell people to find you on Twitter. I had to write here because there's no way I could fit this into 140 characters. And thanks to Tim and Joe for having you on their shows. That's where I found you. Have a great day. So it really cool, really cool to hear that. Really great to get that feedback. And, this is what I like about it. Well, first of all, I thank people for spreading the words, and it's really good to hear that feedback. It fires me up to hear the feedback. And when people say I motivate them, I'm always like, you motivate me. Mm-hmm. That it motivates me that you're out there getting up at 5 a.m. and turning your life around. I think that's awesome. And also what I liked about this was they pointed out that this isn't just military or police or jiu-jitsu players. It's for pretty much anybody in any station in life, in any job, any age, man or woman, any country. And as a matter of fact, I was in England, and my wife's from England. And when I was in England, I went and saw one of my wife's friends, who I'm friends with the husband. And, here's this woman who's, 40-something years old. She's lives in England. She's got 3 kids. She's couldn't be any further detached from me in my life. Mm-hmm. And when I was hanging out with her husband in London before we went to their house, and he said, when we got on the train to go to his house, he said, listen, you got to be ready. And I'm like, for what? And he says, my wife loves your podcast. And I said, really? And he said, no, I'm serious. She loves your podcast, and when we have dinner night, she's going to ask you questions all night long. She's been asking me the questions that she was going to ask you. And so I showed up, and seriously, it was great. She was asking me all these detailed questions about everything, and it was really cool because I realized that this, like I said, this person doesn't do jiu-jitsu, doesn't do anything that I do. Mm-hmm. Nothing. And yet, she had all these lessons learned and all these things she had taken away. And it was awesome to see that. And it was interesting too, because as I was talking to her, it was on a Friday or a Saturday. And as I'm talking to her, she had listened to the latest podcast on the day before. Mm. And so she was saying to me, well, yesterday you said this and yesterday you said that. And so in her mind, I was talking to her yesterday. Right. I was talking to her yesterday. And that's when I kind of realized that how impactful is what we talked about, where the words, the podcast words are going directly into your brain. And I've had a bunch of people say, when you're talking, you were telling this story and I wanted you to talk about this story. These are friends of mine. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's really cool. And I think that's why a lot of people are getting into the game and enjoying it, because and you just said it, and I say it all the time, there's nothing new here. And we're not giving out any groundbreaking techniques, and there's no miracle drug, and there's no 3-minute exercise that's going to change your life. I'm not selling the self-help, reach your potential through this magical mystery. I'm telling people what they already know, and we're talking about things that people know to be right in their own heads. Like discipline and hard work and consistency. Those are the things. Mm-hmm. And we all know those things. But to everybody that's kind of known these things for a while, but they've recently started to get after it. Mm-hmm. Good on you.
Yeah. And
get on that path.
Yeah, I feel like...
And stay on that path. That's what I'm talking about. Very cool.
I feel like just like how you were saying, like we a lot of this we already knew. We already know about stay disciplined. We already know about all this stuff or whatever. But coming from you, it helps. And then on top of that, this is an added element that I'm kind of really starting to really understand and feel is that, you know how like you on Twitter, like you engage. You know, you like if someone asks you questions, it seems like you're engaging them a lot. More so than
if somebody asks me a question, I'm going to answer their question. Yeah, I'm not rude,
which is good. I try to too, for sure. I would imagine you'd be, have way more than me. But kind of as a result of everything, I feel like we're all kind of doing this together. You know how the guys down in Australia, they'll post all the, a lot of people, everyone, they're posting their, 4:30 a.m. wake up, time to do this. Everyone, because that's what you did. Now, guess what? We're all doing it.
Yeah,
we're all doing it. You're responding. They're responding to you. You're responding to them. We're reading questions from them.
Yeah. Isn't it kind of weird? Like these are other people.
Yeah.
And through this weird interweb, they're actually asking questions from some unknown part of the world.
We're having a conversation, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of delayed, but yeah, that's exactly what's going on. So, example, I should have just grabbed my phone and saw the thing. I forget the guy's name, but he was like, hey, Echo, Sunday workout, Sunday. This was like early this morning, maybe late last night, whatever. Sunday workout, give me one. I need a Sunday workout. So I was like, oh, okay. So I gave him the workout. It was basically 2 rounds, 5 sets of clean and press, 5 reps, clean and press 5 times, and then 5 burpees. That's one set. Do 5 sets, 45 seconds rest in between, rest for 2 minutes, and then do 5 more 45 seconds rest. That's it. I said use 135 pounds. I only said 135 pounds because that's the exact thing I do after I lift. And that's like, to me, that's the hard. Lifting's not that hard. But that part's kind of hard to me.
The Metcon,
yeah. So I'm like, but I don't know. Maybe I don't know if I'm in good shape or not as far as that goes. So I say you do it and use that weight. But here's the thing. If he's smaller, I don't know how big he is. No. We're just talking on Twitter, So, the weight didn't really matter.
Hopefully he scaled it properly.
Well, he said later on, he was like, dang, that was pain, but I feel great. I was like, solid. He said, hey, but I adjusted the weight.
Good for him.
So I'm saying, okay, that makes sense. But my 2 reasons why I'm into that is because I wanted that interaction, like, hey, do my workout, And what I'm going to do, and I thought of this earlier this morning or earlier today, I'm going to send him back and say, you give me a workout.
Oh, nice.
And I'm going to do it, but make it something at least close to what you do or something you do, and I'll give you an evaluation,
right.
So hopefully I can get some variety, and it'll help that interaction. I think that's dope.
Yeah,
like cool. How he actually went and did it.
Yeah.
I was like, heck yeah, you did that.
Some barn in Iowa or some.
Yeah, wherever he was.
That's awesome. Good deal.